So, first time on the podcast today, third down squad. Top left corner Josh, top right corner Derek. So, first off, we're going to
Hello.
talk about our favorite teams. As you can see, Derek is on the Colts, as is Josh. I'm with the
Mhm.
Saints. So, yeah, let's go, boys. Let's talk about the Colts.
All right. Josh, do you want to start this off or do you want me to?
I'll let you start it off.
All right. First thing to start this off, you got to start with the rookie phenomenons that the Colts have. Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson. This last month in October, both winning rookies of the month. This definitely helps the Colts, even though with their 3-5 record, it certainly doesn't help with that. But with Andrew Luck being number one in touchdowns, top 10 in completions, completion percentage, and yardage, and only being sacked 10 times this year so far, the Colts offense is definitely on the upside. The defense is improving, and the Colts have a couple of very winnable games these next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to see what the Colts are going to be doing here next.
Oh yeah, you can clearly tell Quentin Nelson added a certain, I guess, tenacity to the offensive line that was lacking. I mean, before he came, the offensive line just looked like Swiss cheese out there. There was hole after hole after hole that people were going through, and it was ridiculous. But now, I think that they're on par if they stay healthy and they get more of a, I guess, depth. Then they could rival the Dallas Cowboys offensive line.
And one more thought on that, Josh. We didn't even mention the running game. I told you this yesterday that the last 2 weeks, the Colts have had 200 yards both weeks rushing. That has not been done in Colts history in over 30 years. So it is great to see the O-line not only taking that stronghold, but the running backs are finally starting to work within the offense. Frank Reich deserves a lot of credit for being able to use those running backs the way he wants to. And you got to give credit to Chris Ballard for picking the right running backs for this system.
True.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder what was lit under Marlon Mack's butt to make him start, performing. I haven't seen him perform like this.
Yeah, but I don't think it's solely Marlon Mack. It's, as you guys said, it's the better O-line that the Colts had. Last year or the last couple of years, the O-line for the Colts didn't really perform, so that helps the run game a whole lot out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, if the defense gets healthy, I mean, come like next year, maybe the year after, we might be making the Super Bowl run.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the healthiest the Colts have been since the end of week 1. I mean, even in New England a couple weeks ago, over half of our starting roster was injured and couldn't play. And we were still competing in games. If our team stays healthy, I don't think there's a single team in the NFL we can't beat because our offense is just as good as anybody else's. Our defense has improved. I think we can definitely start making a run here in the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And you have a really easy division with the Jaguars are not really that good anymore as they were last year. Blake Bortles isn't performing anywhere near what he performed last year. Then you got the Titans in there who are looking pretty bad. So you're in Houston. Okay, that's the only team you guys have to worry about right now is Houston in your division. So you guys have a really easy way into the playoffs.
Yeah. All right, so we talked enough about the Colts here, Toby. Tell us a little bit about your Saints.
Yeah, we got the Saints, of course. This year they didn't really start off that good on defense right now. So Marshawn Lattimore wasn't really himself in the first couple of games from how he performed last year. Now they traded for Eli Apple with his first game against Minnesota. He looked pretty good, but of course he didn't really have time to get into the defensive scheme for the Saints yet. I think he's going to get better and better every game he's going to play with the Saints every week going forward, getting more accustomed to Dennis Allen's playing style and stuff. The only real problem right now for the Saints on defense, I think, is the slot cornerback with P.J. Williams. Because, he got the NFC Defensive Player of last week, but I don't really think that he deserved it because he didn't really play that well in the first half. It was only the second half where he really shined with the pick six in the third quarter and all that. But the first half was really bad by him. And
Yeah.
I think that's the real weak point for the Saints right now in defense. And of course, the offense, I don't think there's much to say there. One of the best quarterbacks in the game with a good wide receiver corps. Two of the or one of the best running backs in Alvin Kamara, and a really good backup with Mark Ingram in there. One of the best O lines in the game right now. So offensively, the Saints, I think, are the number one team in the league right now. The only thing is the defense again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily agree with you on the number one, but I definitely agree with you that, the Saints offense has so many weapons right now. It's hard to keep up with them. And, like you said, if their defense can catch up to the same caliber that it was last year, then the Saints definitely can make some noise, especially this week against the Rams, who have been struggling a little bit with finishing out games. So I definitely could see the Saints making some noise here in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once, you get your defense settled with the Saints, then I'm pretty sure you got a decent amount of time to, rest up, get all set, and then head on to the playoffs. Because I guarantee it, once that Saints defense starts to pinch down on wide receivers, running backs, and get to the quarterback, then that's going to be a free pass all the way to the NFC Championship game where they might play the Rams more than likely.
Yeah, it's in the NFC right now. It's probably Rams against the Saints, and we're gonna see this weekend how that plays out.
Yep. Yeah, and don't turn your back on Minnesota just yet. I know that Minnesota's defense has not been on the same level as they were last year, not even close. But that offense is legit. Kirk Cousins has been playing very well with those receivers, and if that defense picks up the level of intensity, Minnesota could be a very big wild card spot that could make some noise as well.
Yeah, they could be the underdog of this year in the playoffs.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, just like the Eagles were last year. Definitely.
Yeah, same story again.
Hard to believe they were the underdogs last year.
Yeah, hard to believe so.
Yeah. All right, so that's about our teams right now. I've already talked about one of the trades that was going on. Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it was last week, but this week we got the trade deadline, so we had a couple of trades there. And first of all, I think the biggest trade right now is probably Demaryius Thomas going from the Denver Broncos to the Houston Texans. So I really like to hear your thoughts on that one.
Josh, you started out.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good trade that the Texans got because what did they give him for Demaryius Thomas?
They basically gave up a draft pick for him.
Yeah. I think they got a steal with Demaryius Thomas because he's a big target. I mean, he had like some injury problems or something around that realm. But he's a big target that will help relieve pressure off of DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, making Will Fuller the proper slot receiver because I think he's better as that than a second receiver.
Questionable. Remember, Will Fuller is out for the season now. I think that was the reason the Texans went for him because Will Fuller is now out for the season, and they needed another guy to take over to, like you said, to help protect against only having DeAndre Hopkins on the roster.
Yeah. And you see what he did for Peyton Manning back in the day. I mean, he was pretty much the target to have until Wes Welker went down, and then they got, I can't think of it. Emmanuel Sanders.
Emmanuel, yep.
Yeah. And then Emmanuel Sanders relieved pressure off of Demaryius Thomas, and then it's just been back and forth from there. But I think it was a good pickup by the Texans.
Yeah, and just to clarify right now, they gave up a fourth-rounder for Demaryius Thomas.
Fourth-rounder.
Yeah, so that was a steal. I think that was a steal.
Yeah, for a wide receiver of his caliber, a fourth-rounder is really a steal.
I do agree with you, Josh, that it was a good decision by the Texans to give up a mid-round draft pick for a guy that has kind of given some credibility that he can be something. My only issue is I was in your spot. I used to say this guy is worth a lot of money, but I start looking at what people have said, and then I keep re-looking back at some of the film. I don't know how I feel about Demaryius Thomas and what he will be able to bring to Houston. Now, it's interesting because Texans play Denver this week, so who knows how much playing time he's actually going to get, considering he's only got a week in the offense. But he's had a drop problem ever since the year they won the Super Bowl. He was non-existent in that 2016 Super Bowl, by the way. He he's pushing 30 years old. He's getting to be 30. He's got a few quality years left in him if he has that. And like you said, he definitely has the build. He has the size. He has the speed to be a good possession receiver and take some of that pressure off DeAndre. I felt like it was a no risk. It was a no risk play for the Texans to get Demaryius Thomas. But in regards as to what he will bring to them, I'm not sure what to expect. Like I said, his drop rate is among the highest in the league when it comes to qualified receivers. But he does have that ability where if he just doesn't drop the ball, he does have the ability to make some big plays for the Texans. And that was a very good trade by the Texans.
Yeah, and one thing you really got to look at with his drop rate, you mentioned the years after the Super Bowl. You got to look at the quarterbacks that they had in Denver the coming years. With no high caliber quarterback was there for the last 2 years. So now with Deshaun Watson,
I mean, that is kind of a thing. That is kind of the thing. You're right about that. The quality of the throws may have decreased a little bit, but also when the golden rule of the receiver, you got to catch the ball if it goes into your hands. Doesn't matter who's throwing it, you got to catch it, and that's just been his biggest issue.
Yeah, he had a couple of problems there, but I think he bounced back a little bit with Case Keenum this year. So he had better numbers this year. So I think that he might progress with the stats with Deshaun Watson there. But now another trade that I want to talk about is also in Texas, which wasn't really at the deadline day, but a couple of days before that with Amari Cooper. Coming from the Oakland Raiders, of course, the Raiders are shipping out their whole team right now, or their best players. And the Cowboys really needed a good wide receiver this year, but how is it gonna impact Amari Cooper in your opinions that he's now going to Dak Prescott as his quarterback that has to throw to him?
And so remind me again, Toby, what did they give up in return for Amari?
Their first rounder, I think, and a late rounder, a conditional late round pick.
Okay. I do believe giving up a first pick for a wide receiver, almost any wide receiver, especially one that's not top 10, is astronomically bad. But when you're the Dallas Cowboys, who absolutely need a receiver at this point in time, you got to do what you got to do. I understand why they did it. And I think Amari Cooper has always been a question mark to me because he had the same thing as Demaryius Thomas. He had a lot of drops in his career so far throughout his career. He is a drop machine. But he's the guy that can make big plays, and that's definitely what Dallas needs. And who knows how the team chemistry is, because Derek Carr was very inconsistent on getting the ball to him. Michael Crabtree was always favored over Amari Cooper, and now that Amari is basically going to be the number one guy, that is going to be a fun thing to see. I hope he's targeted at least 7 times a game, which he definitely should be. It's just going to be a question mark for me. I'm not sure where to expect. My only issue is that if he couldn't get insane or very good numbers with Derek Carr as his quarterback, I don't know how he's going to do with a passive-aggressive Dak Prescott, although Amari Cooper does give Dak Prescott an excuse to throw the ball deep.
Yeah, he's going to give him one target that he can actually throw to. And I think that's been the problem with the Dallas offense so far this year, that he didn't really have a target to throw to. There was nobody there. Allen Hurns didn't perform. Michael Gallup didn't do nothing really. They don't have a tight end after they got rid of come on
Wasn't it Witten?
yeah, Jason Witten. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah, Jay
couldn't
Witten.
think
Yeah.
of the name. Yeah, but so Dak Prescott didn't really have any targets.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, Josh, what are your opinions on it?
I kind of think they gave up too much for him. I think he was more worth of a second or third rounder more than a first rounder, only because he really didn't show up last year and hasn't barely showed up this year. But, I mean, you're right. He does add that deep threat dynamic for Dak Prescott. And I do think that if he works on his drops, he could be an elite receiver, but he just has butterfingers majority of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was like, I don't know, like for this season, John Gruden coming in and then just kind of throwing off the offense a little bit, maybe working on Derek Carr's dynamic a little bit more, might have thrown off Amari Cooper's rhythm. And that's probably why he wasn't showing up. Or because when they got Amari Cooper, they already had Derek Carr, and all they needed was a wide receiver. So it was a smart move to get him in like the 6th pick of the 2016 draft. Was it?
It wasn't 2015 or 16. It was one of those years.
Yeah, which I thought was a smart draft pick by the Raiders, but he just really hadn't panned out like the way they wanted. And at least now he can start from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're really loading up with first round picks right now in next year's draft, with their own draft pick, with the Bears draft pick that they got for Khalil Mack, and now the one that they got for Amari Cooper. Now they have 3 first rounders, but I'm not sure if they get any talent that is near as good as it was in Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper next year.
Certainly not Khalil Mack. That like they were saying, that was a generational talent, and they just let that throw away. And we will talk about that certainly when we're talking about coaches later in this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, talking about coaches, coming to the next coaching decision. Bless you, Derek.
Thank you.
Coming to the Browns, of course, who fired Hugh Jackson in the beginning of the week, and their offensive coordinator.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, finally, they pulled the trigger and fired Hugh Jackson finally.
Did you see Twitter when they announced that? Nobody gave a damn about him.
Yeah.
We're just happy he was out the door.
Yeah, everybody was
So
happy
glad.
that he was out the door after only winning 3 games in 40 games that he was their head coach. It was really, I don't know what that record says. But yeah, now Greg Williams is their interim head coach for the rest of the season. So, of course, everybody got a list who they think that might take over the head coaching job in Cleveland from next year on. And I know you guys got some too. So, Josh, start us off. Who do you think might be the new head coach from next season?
I think that they could probably sway either Oklahoma's head coach or Minnesota's head coach.
Okay.
Because if you've noticed the way Minnesota's been playing recently under, I'm trying to remember, what was his name?
We talking about the Vikings here?
No, the Golden Gophers.
I do not know the coach of the Gophers' name. I'm sorry.
I only know the Sooners, which would be Lincoln Riley. But
Yeah, Lincoln
Minnesota,
Riley.
let me look it up.
But I agree with you, Josh, that Minnesota's offense has been running at a high level recently.
Yeah. But I doubt that he'll give that up because he just started 2 years ago or something like that. Just now he's finally getting recruits. But I think that there's more of a higher opportunity for Lincoln Riley to come out to Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be back with Baker Mayfield.
And I'll top on that. I'll top onto that. I've been talking to Toby about that. And I never thought I would say this, but Chase is right about John Dorsey. I'm falling into the hype of him. I usually don't listen to Chase a whole lot when it comes to football, but when it comes to what John Dorsey has done, he's brought in great talent. He's brought in a decent amount of staff. His next big move was to fire Hugh Jackson. That's what they did. They got rid of Todd Haley. Now it's the time to rebuild from the inside out when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. You had Greg Williams, who is a very good defensive coach. I like what the Cleveland Browns have done defensively, and I agree with you, Josh. Lincoln Riley should be the head candidate for it because you want everything to work with Baker Mayfield. You drafted Baker Mayfield for a reason. You want him to be your franchise guy. And if you believe you have confidence in him, get the guy who ran the offense in Oklahoma with him, knows how to use Baker Mayfield's strengths. Because you don't have to – I know Baker Mayfield played in the Big 12, but we don't have to make Lincoln Riley be both the offense and the defensive coach. He just needs to strictly stay within the bounds of the offense, help Baker Mayfield, let Greg Williams take control of that defense like he has been. And I firmly believe the Browns can win 6 to 7 games, if not more, if they just know how to utilize that offense a little bit more.
Yeah, that has really been the problem this season so far. And just for further information, the Minnesota head coach is PJ Fleck.
PJ Fleck, yes. The Western Michigan, former Western Michigan MAC conference guy. That is my dude. I like him. He's a very good coach.
Yeah, so that's Josh's pick for the head coach. I actually have 2 more candidates on my list here that are kind of debatable. But right now I got Mike McCarthy, the current head coach of the Green Bay Packers, because I think the way that they play right now, I'm not sure if they not split their ways during the offseason, and I think Mike McCarthy would be a coach who is a veteran. He has the experience in the NFL, who can kind of help the offense in Cleveland to get that one step further than they have been for the last couple of years, because he's really an offensive-minded coach. He has always been in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. He has the experience with a good quarterback that he can bring to Baker Mayfield to kind of develop to that elite passer that he can be. And another coach that I also have on my list, which might be pretty interesting to Josh as a Michigan fan, would be Jim Harbaugh, to come down from Michigan to coach the Cleveland Browns. But he probably won't be liked in Ohio as a Michigan guy, but I think he might be a good candidate because let me finish that thought real quick. Because I think it's kind of the same situation in Cleveland right now as it was in San Francisco when he went to San Francisco as their head coach. Kind of a young team with a lot of talent that was not really showing their full potential, which he developed to being a Super Bowl team. And I think that he can actually do a pretty good work with that young team that is in Cleveland right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in regards to your comments on whether or not he'd be liked, if he can help Cleveland win games, they do not care where he came from.
Yeah.
As long as they're winning games, they do not care. They will not care at all.
Now, I'll throw down a wild card here. And I think that if they can do it, they could sway Urban Meyer away from Ohio State. And here's why. During that whole scandal thing, there's been rumors circulating that Urban Meyer is not starting to like how this team did not, or not like the team, but like the staff or like the front office, whatever you want to call it, didn't stick up with him more. And he's starting to get more and more frustrated. Now, I could see Cleveland making a run at him, but that doesn't mean that he'll be like, the be-all, end-all, because he's more of a college head coach. Because he's more of the developer and not the sharpener, I guess, He develops them, and then he lets the NFL sharpen them.
True, yeah.
Very true. Very true.
I do think the Mike McCarthy one is probably the most likely, solely because I think Aaron Rodgers has been bailing him out numerous times.
Yeah.
Because that defense has been horrendous ever since they won the Super Bowl, back when Clay Matthews was in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But that's pretty – and I think for Jim Harbaugh to leave, it's going to take a lot of convincing. Sure, you can say about the Ohio State record and Michigan State and the Big 10 teams, but look at what he's done for that school. I mean, before he came here, they were the laughing stock of like a once proud college.
Not to mention what he's getting paid now. He's getting paid $9 million. Like
he's under Urban Meyer after he got the contract extension.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for him to leave, it's going to take, more of a team. I mean, sure, they got an offense, but they need more. Because he wants to go in there and he wants to just win like that. But that's just what I'm going to say about that. Because I know, sure, he's lost to Ohio State numerous times, but he's giving Michigan a consistent winning record overall. And I just don't think that Michigan would let him run away, because if they do, they'll take Don Brown with them, and then there goes that top 5 defense right there for them.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
But we've already talked now about the Green Bay Packers with Mike McCarthy and how he had Aaron Rodgers. Of course, we got a big game coming up this week between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Second time ever that they actually met in a game over their whole career. It's kind of weird to imagine with Brady in his 19th season and Rodgers in his 14th that these two guys haven't met more than twice in their whole career in the NFL. But what are your thoughts, guys? How is this game gonna match up? How do these two guys compare? Who is the better quarterback?
Well, from what I've always stated was that it always came down to the system. And I love what Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have been doing this past week. Tom Brady stated that, or Aaron Rodgers stated first that whether or not Tom Brady was the GOAT, he said he has 5 championships. That pretty much sums it up. And then Tom Brady fires back and says, if he was in my system, he'd have 7,000 yards passing every year, because he's just so much more dynamic than himself, which is very true. I believe that Aaron Rodgers is the more dynamic quarterback and is the better quarterback, simply because, not because of team oriented, but what he is able to do specifically to make the team better. His ability to extend plays, his ability to move with his feet, to be able to throw balls that just seem to be unthrowable by most other quarterbacks. That's why I still believe, even at 30 years old, or like 34 actually, that Aaron Rodgers is still better than any version of Tom Brady we've ever seen. Tom Brady's still really good because of his system in which he plays. Does a lot of checkdowns, has a lot of better receivers right now, and I mean, statistically, his defense has been better than Aaron Rodgers has most of his career. So, again, I'll say Aaron Rodgers because of his dynamic of playmaking. And in regards to the game itself, I've been thinking about it all day. It's been really hard to dissect this because you just saw last week, both the Packers and the Patriots have played the Bills so far this season. One of them, they both won, but both won by a mere 1 score.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to think about that, because the two best quarterbacks in the game struggled with the 3rd worst team in the NFL. But it's simply because of the scheme in which the Bills defense is able to run. They're a underrated pass defense, and I would say that I would normally give the edge to the Packers, because the Packers seem to have found a little bit of a run game with Aaron Jones leading the helm. But in regards to the game itself, I'm giving the slight edge to the Patriots because it's at home. We all know that when you play in Boston at New England, it is very difficult to win in that environment. And even with Aaron Rodgers playing at the level that he is right now, and despite the Patriots' struggles, I do believe that the Patriots never seem to struggle in back-to-back games. They usually don't. I believe this will be a close game. Both quarterbacks are going to have their way with the defenses, because neither defense is very good in pass coverage. But I give the slight edge to the Patriots just simply because of where they're playing and the scheme in which Bill Belichick and Tom Brady will put together.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Josh?
Well, as much as I don't like the guy, I mean, in regards to both of the quarterbacks, I still think that Tom Brady's a little bit better than Aaron Rodgers. Because for me, I always thought like, when people say, "Oh man, Aaron Rodgers is better," I'm like, but why though? I mean, Tom
Yeah.
Brady has 5 rings, the Rodgers is 1. What does Rodgers do that Brady doesn't? And that's
I
still,
can answer that, but I won't
Yeah.
do it in front of you.
but sure, Rodgers can make great throws and all that, but in the end, his team doesn't carry him far enough to get there. I mean, he carries them.
Yeah.
At least with Tom Brady, they share the love in New England as much to the dismay as all their opponents. But in regard, yeah, like that's pretty much what I'm just going to say is that Tom Brady is better than Aaron Rodgers just solely on the fact that he can lead, but Tom Brady just, again, as much as I hate using the ring reference, he's just got more championships to prove that he is superior to Rodgers. But even though Adam Vinatieri got them 3 of those rings, I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah.
And you have one of the biggest blunders in Super Bowl history.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, in regards to like the game, though, I'm still going to say it's going to be the Patriots, but it's going to be a battle between the quarterbacks because both defenses are mediocre at best.
This year, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just going to come down to which quarterback can reach the end zone first.
Yeah, but I got I got the list of the questionable players for the Patriots right here that they just brought out a couple of minutes ago.
Mhm.
On the questionable list right now are Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, Rob Gronkowski, Sony Michel, and Cordarrelle Patterson. So basically, their 5 biggest weapons in the offense right now, besides James White, are on that list.
I will tell you this, Toby. I've been looking on fantasy. They said that Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon, although questionable, Bill Belichick has shown signs that state they both will play against the Packers Sunday night. I'm not sure about Gronk yet, but from what I'm being told, Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman will both be playing.
Yeah, they will be playing, but they are probably not at 100% for this game. And I think, of course, the Packers receivers are also banged up with Geronimo Allison, who is officially out now after he injured his hamstring in practice. I think it was yesterday.
Keep in mind, though, that the Packers did trade away Clinton Dix.
Yeah, they traded him away.
There was a quarterback that was pretty good for them.
That was the one thing I mentioned to Toby for the trade deadline. That's one of the bigger ones because Clinton Dix was a very underrated safety. He was very good at tackling in open field, usually very good in pass coverage. That does hurt, especially when your backup safety now has to come in on a week's notice and play one of the best offensive schemes in the league.
Yeah, not to mention the guard against possibly Rob Gronkowski and Josh Gordon down the middle too.
Probably, yeah. And actually, you guys, Josh, you talked about the stats between Brady and Rodgers there, and not only the rings. Excuse me. Actually, I got the stats here for their passing yards per season in the league right now, so they're comparable between the two. How much do you guys think? How much of a difference is between the two guys in yards per season passing?
100 yards.
Yeah, I would say it's roughly that. I do believe that. I do believe it's about 100.
It's actually Tom Brady is sitting at an average of 3,695 yards per season, with Aaron Rodgers only at 3,021 yards. So the difference is roughly 700 yards per season.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about, yeah. I did see one stat this morning. These two quarterbacks have the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. Aaron Rodgers has a 4.0 touchdown to interception ratio, and Tom Brady has a 3.1, I believe.
Yeah. They are definitely two of the best quarterbacks right now, but I also give the edge to Tom Brady right now. The stats, and I've talked about it in a video. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that I've uploaded. In the quarterback conversation, I don't count the 5 rings for Tom Brady at all because, as Josh has already said, 3 of them were won by Adam Vinatieri. One of them was the Falcons just lost it. It was not won by the Patriots at all. So Tom Brady for me, one ring for the Patriots. There is one ring that has to be credited to Tom Brady for the Patriots.
Yeah.
And not to mention, Vinatieri is now like the leading scorer, all-time scorer in NFL history.
Yeah, he got that record last week. That's pretty nice.
Another great thing about the Colts too that people don't quite understand.
Yeah.
Adam Vinatieri at 45 years old still can kick a football better than most people in the NFL right now. Most.
Yeah.
That's
really true.
Way better than that Tampa kicker that they got with their second round.
Definitely,
Yes.
That's definitely
matter of time
true,
before that was brought up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, I think do you guys have still something to add on the Brady Rodgers discussion there?
Kind of, but I mean, this is kind of more off topic, but I think I can throw it in here.
Yeah, just put it out there.
There was a group chat I'm in, and one of the people on there said that now that Breeze had passed Peyton Manning's record or pass yard record,
yeah.
Why do we still call him the GOAT now that like his passing yards are gone and touchdowns? Oh, I think right now, right, with Brady, is he almost there?
Almost.
Drew Brees has what, like 30 more left?
Yeah, I think Breeze is at 502 or 501. Brady is at 504, and I think Peyton Manning's record is 536, I believe.
I thought he was up at 600, like 604.
No, it's definitely it's not
wasn't
600. It's something in the 530s.
But pretty much what led that into is like, so he pretty much just said, can we stop calling Peyton Manning the greatest of all time now that his records are almost ready to be passed?
Yeah.
So I mean, I never mentioned Peyton Manning. I know I probably have said it. It's the greatest of all time. My bias comes into play on that. But Toby brought it up on the head a little bit ago on his channel. He said that I agree. Drew Brees is the most underrated quarterback of all time when it comes to the GOAT conversation. He's statistically the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the LeBron James of the NFL. You see his numbers and then you're just in awe of just how he's been able to do this, and even still at 37 years old still looks like he's able to keep doing it. It's like we don't bring up his name enough in the top 10. I don't hear a lot of people even bring him up in the top 10. I'm like, this man should get top 5, if not the number 1.
Yeah.
If not.
You know who I think as of right now deserves to be considered for top 5 quarterbacks just overall?
Yeah, give me the ranking.
It's Philip Rivers.
Yeah, okay.
He's just that under the radar quarterback that always has like those great seasons. I mean, it's time to show him some love like we do Rodgers and Brady. I mean, sure, he doesn't have like, the record and stature of them, but he's one of those ones that should be put into there with like Brady, Breeze, Rodgers,
Yeah, and just to clarify here, we're not talking about all time in the NFL right now. We're talking quarterbacks that are playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Philip is, if not a top 5, he's easily top 10. He's like, he's number 6 on my roster.
Yeah, he's easily in the top 10.
Easily.
Yeah, but there can be an argument made there that he's in the top 5 as well. And one thing that Josh did or Derek mentioned there with Drew Brees right now, that what I saw, I think it was today with Colin Cowherd, he was also talking about Brady and Rodgers and how Rodgers, he compares him to LeBron James, the LeBron James of the NFL, who didn't really have the supporting cast and all that. But in the next sentence, he's talking about Drew Brees being in the perfect situation there with an offensive mastermind as his head coach and Sean Payton, and compared him to Tiger Woods in golf and that stuff. And I think that's just totally wrong. I think Rodgers and Brees have been in the same situation over their whole NFL career. They had a decent offense, which they made look great, and they always had a bad defense. With a better defense, both of them would have had 3, maybe 4 rings each, and Brady might not have his 5 rings by now.
All right, so if you took Drew Brees away from Sean Payton and you put him with Bill Belichick, how many rings do you think Brees is going to get in New England? Like, if everything's set up the same way it is for Brady, but you put Brees inside his place right now, what are the odds of him getting 5 Super Bowls with that?
Yeah, with the receivers that they have in New England right now, or the last years, I think Breeze would have also 5 rings by now, if not more.
Yeah, because Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback of all time, which is kind of crazy to think because Tom Brady is one of the most accurate, but Drew Brees blows everybody else out of the water. And even at 37 right now, Drew Brees, I would maybe take Drew Brees over Tom Brady right now because Drew Brees, neither one of them have insane arms, but Drew Brees' accuracy is slim to none when it comes to anybody else.
Yeah.
It is just so unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he's not in the conversation quite enough. Right now, of course, it's all Brady Rodgers with the game right now. But most of the people just rank these 2 QBs number 1 and 2 in the league and don't really discuss Drew Brees not near enough as being in the top 2 as well, or if he should be in the same tier of quarterbacks as these 2 are. And I think he's definitely within the same group of quarterbacks as Brady and Rodgers.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
All right, but I think we got a little bit off topic here, and
my bad.
it's all right. At least we got something to talk about and got a discussion out of it. But of course, last thing on the list right now, we got the predictions for the weekend games and Monday night games in the NFL right now. So I guess we're gonna start off with the first game. We're going down the whole schedule, like I said. First game, Chicago at Buffalo. I think we're gonna start off with Derek, then Josh. Let me just give us the predictions. Who's gonna win? What do you think about the game?
All right, we'll make it a quick 10, 15 second each. Chicago, better defense, better quarterback situation. They're going to be, on top of their game. That defense is just not going to let Buffalo do anything.
Yeah, I got Chicago as well. That defense, for all great it is with Khalil Mack, I still think that the Buffalo Bills are still going to find a way to lose it and lose by at least 14.
Yeah, I think quite the same as you guys. Buffalo with the whole quarterback stuff that is going on up there. I don't know how they should win any game right now, and the defense is still banged up as well at a couple of positions for the Buffalo Bills. And the Chicago Bears offense is rolling right now, so for me, the clear favorite is the Bears in this game. And second game we're gonna talk about Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Carolina Panthers.
All right. Yeah, Carolina is my pick for this. Carolina's offense is running at an all-time high right now. They haven't been playing this well since they've been to the Super Bowl in 2015. Cam Newton's found his mojo. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been inconsistent, and I believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I don't know how well he's going to take over this week, especially against the front seven of the Carolina Panthers. So I give Carolina the edge in this game.
I'm sorry, Derek, but I got to go with Fitz money on this one here. The Buccaneers, man, when he's behind the offense, they just get pumping. Jameis Winston just slows them down. If they start Fitz money, the Buccaneers are going to win, no doubt about it.
All right, as you can see, guys, it's a controversial one, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might come back to their form that they had in the first 2 games this year with Fitzpatrick as their quarterback. But I got to agree with Derek here. The Panthers are just too good the last couple of weeks. Still with Cam Newton a little bit banged up from the last game, but I'm going to give it to Carolina as well in this game, especially when they're at home. I think they just have a slight edge, but I think it's going to be a close game. And the next one is Kansas City at Cleveland.
Yeah, sorry, Cleveland. Your third win is not coming anytime soon. It's not going to go back to 4 years ago. Kansas City, too good of an offense, even with Cleveland's defense being as good as it's been all season. Kansas City will still find a way to put up 30 points on them. They're without a head coach right now to call offensive plays. They're just not going to be able to put enough points to outscore Kansas City.
Yep. All it's going to take is Mahomes and just reaching Kelsey, Hill, and Hunt. Those big three right there big four on offense right there is what's going to blow Cleveland out of the water. And not to mention their defense. If Baker Mayfield has no offensive coordinator also to call the plays for him, it's going to have to show that he has the leadership, but I don't think he'll do it right now. So I got this Chiefs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Josh. I think in Cleveland, with all the stuff that is going on with the firing of their head coach and offensive coordinator right there, I don't think that they have the structure right now for a functioning football team. And of course, going up against one of the best teams right now in the league, I give them no chance. Clear winner for me are the Chiefs there as well. And next, the New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins.
Miami, one of the most underrated teams in the league, started out hot, started doing really bad recently. They've run into a couple of pretty tough opponents. New York Jets, I do not believe, are one of them. New York Jets has been inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball. Miami at home is looking for a win, especially within, their division. I do believe this is going to be a tight fit, but I believe the Miami Dolphins will be able to pull it out in the end against a struggling New York Jets team right now.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that the Jets overall still need a lot of work. They still need better defensive players. I mean, they got a quarterback in Darnold, but I still think that Miami's going to be able to run away with this one fairly easy.
Yeah, gotta agree with you there again. The Jets, they started off pretty well against the Detroit Lions in week 1 this year. I was kind of surprised to see them actually do that well, but after that, they didn't show anything at all anymore. So I'm giving it to Miami. They're kind of an up and down team. They haven't been consistent, as Derek already said, but I think at home, Miami gets it done against the Jets. And the next one, big rivalry game, Pittsburgh against Baltimore.
This is the best it gets right here in the North Division, the AFC North. Ravens at home against Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's been getting really good lately, but the Ravens' defense is secretly one of the top 5 best defenses in the league. Their run defense, I believe, will find a way to slow down James Conner, find a way to isolate Antonio Brown, and I believe that the offense will be able to pick apart the defense of the Steelers a little bit and will be able to win by 1 score.
Yeah, I got the Ravens in this one too, just because Joe Flacco, he's got more targets with Michael Crabtree and I think it's John Brown or Josh Brown.
John Brown.
John Brown.
Yeah, John Brown. I think if he hooks up with them, because the passing defense of the Steelers is not what it used to be. So if he hooks up with them right there, it takes a lot of pressure off of the running back position. So I just think that along with the Ravens defense, they're going to be able to beat the Steelers pretty easily, just on the sole fact that the defensive line for the Ravens is going to get to Big Ben and just keep on pummeling him.
Yeah, I got the Ravens here as well, but I think historically the Steelers have been bad in road games, especially when they were at Baltimore because of the rivalry. They have kind of alternated wins between each other because almost all the time the home team wins in their games. And I think nobody's really talking about it or doesn't pay any attention to it, but I think the trade that the Ravens did with the Green Bay Packers a couple of days ago with Ty Montgomery, I think he might add a little bit to the offense in Baltimore that not a lot of people see. That kind of adds another secret weapon for Joe Flacco there he can use in the short passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, next is also again a divisional matchup between the Lions and the Vikings.
Vikings and Lions. Man, I am so on board with the Vikings hype train this season. I know their record isn't necessarily great right now, but their offense has been firing on all cylinders. Their defense hadn't been too great, but Matt Stafford, statistically, is the worst quarterback in the league when facing very good opponents. Basically, opponents that are above 500. He has the worst record by far of anybody. He slums down when it comes to good competition. I believe the Vikings will dominate on offense again and will just find a way to blow through Detroit.
Yeah, I got to say the same thing with you, Derek. I just think that it's in Minnesota. You brought up his statistics against top, 500 teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think for those, I just think that, they beat the Patriots. I think it's just probably because they got the defensive coordinator as head coach, and he knew how to disable Tom Brady right there. I don't think that was really much of a, deserved. I mean, it was a win, but I just think that there went more into it than just Matt Stafford just being, fantastic for that game against the Patriots. So, and I just think that the Vikings defense is just going to harass them on that offensive line and get to Stafford or, Kerryon Johnson. I just don't think they'll be able to run the ball efficiently enough. And plus, they just lost Golden Tate, too. So there goes another
one,
Yeah, I think I don't have anything more to add here. Everything has been said. Minnesota right now is just a better team compared to the Detroit Lions. So I'm giving it to Minnesota, especially at home. Minnesota has been good there. So, easy win for Minnesota, in my opinion. Another interesting game on Sunday will be the Atlanta Falcons at the Washington Redskins.
This one definitely will be an interesting one, especially since Washington has had an offense again. Their offense has been running as efficiently as it has been for a while. Adrian Peterson has established his dominance even at the age that he is. If Chris Thompson in his absence, considering his injuries, it hasn't seemed to slow them down too much. Alex Smith has been playing very well. And with the injuries that the Falcons have on the defensive side of the ball right now, I just believe that the Redskins will slip this game out at the end because they're going to be a little bit better with depth in the end of the game.
I mean, you made some great points, Derek, but I got to give it to the Falcons on this one. I just think now is when they're going to start to bounce back. I mean, Josh Norman hasn't been playing like he used to. So Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones, those two wide receivers right there, one's going to get open. There's going to be an easy touchdown for Matt Ryan to make. Sure, they don't have Freeman, but they do have I'm trying to remember what his name is.
Isn't that Coleman?
Yeah, Coleman.
Yeah.
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman.
Tevin Coleman.
I think Tevin Coleman's going to do enough to keep that run game alive to have them squeak out the win by at least 3.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I gotta disagree with Josh there. I don't see the Falcons coming back in this game yet. I don't think I don't see them getting any better on offense. I think they already hit their ceiling. They don't play as they did 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl because I think it was the system of Kyle Shanahan that put them just on another level that season. But this year, the Washington Redskins offense is just too good. And as Derek already mentioned, the Falcons are struggling with some injuries on defense. And I don't see it that the Falcons can actually pull it off. I think it's a close game, as both of you predict as well. But I give the slight edge because of the better offense right now to the Washington Redskins. And yeah, right now we got a couple of really interesting games coming up. And next one is the Texans against the Broncos.
This was an interesting one for me. I didn't want to pick the Texans at first because I know Denver and their cap level can definitely reach something good, but they're inconsistent every week. They're inconsistent. You never know whether that team is going to show up, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And with the Texans finally finding their groove with the offense that they're at right now, I just see the Texans, even going on the road, finding a way to just win this game by a score or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I just think that Case Keenum, I believe he's a starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Case Keenum. Yep.
I think he won't be. He'll have to move a lot to avoid J.J. Watt and David Clowney. And I think that's what's going to, those two are going to harass him to the point where he's just going to be making inconsistent throws. And that Broncos defense isn't what it used to be. And it's very, it fluctuates. And I think that the Texans are going to play on that flex and then just win the game with Deshaun Watson reaching Hopkins and everybody else. I just got to give it to the Texans.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the Texans here. I think the Texans won't be as good as they were the last couple of weeks just because they are missing Will Fuller with their deep threat, which would have been a great weapon against the Denver defense right now because they don't have anybody who can cover the deep ball. But still, with them adding Demaryius Thomas, I'm giving them the edge. And the Broncos didn't really look good against good offenses that the Texans definitely are this year. And against good defenses, they didn't look good at all. So I think the Houston Texans should win it by 2 scores. And yep, next interesting game again. A lot of close ones this weekend with the Chargers against the Seahawks.
Yeah, this is the one game Josh and I actually agree, and not Toby. So this is going to be the interesting one here. I was battling both ways with this. One has the better offense. The other one has a slightly better defense. And I think right now, even with it being at Seattle, I think that with the questions that Seattle has on their offense still, I still believe the Chargers will find a way offensively to just slip a few points in, and at the end, we'll get a game-winning field goal to win the game in Seattle.
Yeah, honestly, I went with this one because Melvin Gordon has found his stride again. And he's going to help out Phillip Rivers a lot in this situation because they're going to be in Seattle with the 12th man. And I think with Evan Ingram on the side, and I don't know if they have Joey Bosa yet back or not.
I don't think so.
But I don't believe he's back yet.
But that Chargers defense has been looking pretty strong even without him. So I got to give this one to the Chargers.
Yeah, all right. As the already said, we discussed that game before recording here, and I think the Seahawks are a little bit better right now. I think they have an underrated offense right now. I think their offense can be quite good at times with Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin. Of course, their running backs aren't as good as they were when Marshawn Lynch was still with the Seahawks. But, I mean, you can't compare the current running backs to Marshawn Lynch in his stride. So, but I'm giving it to the Seahawks this game just because I think at home with the 12th man behind them, I think with a magic Russell Wilson who can avoid the pressure, I think they might win it by just a couple of points. But yeah, now we're moving on to the game that interests me probably most, and most people probably are interested in the game as well, between the Rams and the Saints.
Yeah, Toby, you're not the only one that's super excited for this game. This is my favorite game of the week. You have two quite possibly the best teams in the NFL. Obviously, you have the only undefeated team left in the league, the Rams, and the Saints, who have found their fire once again. It's going to be at New Orleans. The Rams had a struggle with the Green Bay Packers this last week, even on their defensive side of the ball. I think New Orleans is going to have a system in place. We already know New Orleans has a better defense than the Green Bay Packers do. I do believe that they will find a way, like Toby said. Toby said that they have one of the better rushing defenses in the league. I believe that's going to help slow down Gurley a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you slow down Gurley, which is the main train in that offense, I believe the Saints will pull this one out.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to leave it down to a few simple words. Breeze, Peyton, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, win.
Yeah, that's a good summary of all that stuff. And yeah, I also think, of course, the Saints are going to pull off the win at home. But as Derek
sure.
already said, Todd Gurley is the one that they have to stop. And of course, the Saints have the best run defense right now in the league, which is kind of surprising. They didn't have a good run defense for the last, I don't know how many years. But now they are struggling against the pass. And one thing that kind of concerns me right now is that Cooper Kupp is coming back for that game, especially as their slot receiver. The Saints gave up a lot of yardage against the slot receivers with PJ Williams as their slot cornerback. I've already talked about it before. That's, I think, the key matchup for this game that people have to look out for, which will decide the game eventually. But I think the Saints, with the better offense and the better defense right now, are pulling it off at home this weekend. And the penultimate game for today that we discussed, and we already have discussed it actually, is between the Packers and the Patriots.
I'll leave it nice and simple. I think the Patriots are going to win. I've already explained my case before. Although I do hope Aaron Rodgers does very well, because Aaron, I have you on my fantasy team, man. You need to produce this week.
And I'm going to keep it simple, too. Like I said before, whichever quarterback scores first wins the game. Because I'm hoping Tom Brady scores enough points for my fantasy team, because he's on my fantasy team.
And no, we're not playing each other, whoever watches this video. We're just saying Tom Brady, I have Aaron Rodgers, so, yippee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got the New England Patriots twice now. I'm going to add up to that, make it 3 times. I just think the Patriots are the better team right now. The Packers, despite looking pretty good against the Rams last week, I don't think they are quite at that level as the Patriots are right now. So, especially at home, the Patriots have always been good in Foxborough. So I don't think that even with Aaron Rodgers, they don't have the form right now that they need to beat the Patriots at home.
Right.
And last but not least, Monday Night Football between the Tennessee Titans and the Dallas Cowboys.
I got one question for y'all. How about them Cowboys? Them Cowboys are going to win this week, man. The Tennessee Titans, man, I don't know. Tennessee Titans love to boast their team. I don't know what they are taking, but Tennessee Titans are not good right now. Mike Vrabel is a coach that I have on the hot seat right now. He is just not producing with this roster, which is kind of crazy to think because Tennessee has one of the most talented rosters in the NFL right now. But, yeah, I think at Dallas, Ezekiel's going to run the ball pretty well. I think that the Dallas Cowboys will win this by like 10 or 13 points.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys as well, just solely on the fact that Zeke is going to find a way to tear him to shreds. And honestly, if I'm the Titans right now, I'm starting to think, should I move away from Marcus Mariota and find somebody else? Because he has not been performing to what they wanted him to.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, he's had injuries and all that, but it's still really no excuse to having, I believe it was, you might want to fact check me on this one, but his interception to touchdown ratio, I think his interceptions surpassed his touchdowns at one point.
I think in the red zone, he's actually, in the red zone, that's where, that's always been a struggle for him. But the rest of the field, he's been insanely good. Yeah. But like you said, his numbers just haven't really translated to what we really want.
When it comes really down to the scoring. But I think a problem that he has is just the wide receivers right now. Because the Titans, they are looking good at every position, just not the wide receivers. And they have to get a good or big target for him in the red zones. They have speed receivers, but they don't have anybody that is kind of like a Gronkowski for Tom Brady or a Michael Thomas for Drew Brees. The big guys that can make the contested catch in the red zone right now, and that's the point for the Tennessee Titans. And of course, we already talked about it. The Dallas Cowboys have added a weapon for Dak Prescott with Amari Cooper. So I just see the Dallas Cowboys ahead here. Of course, again, they are playing at home with that advantage. I think the Cowboys should make the game. So, anybody still wants to add anything on the predictions there, or?
I
Nah,
said,
man, I think I'm good.
yeah, I said my piece. So
All right, so then we're done today with our podcast with the Third
yeah,
Down Squad. First
Mhm.
podcast done, finished, and all. I'm gonna put up the whole table with the predictions at the end of the video, so you guys can watch it or have a look at it a little closer. Got some time to get the predictions down for everyone. We're gonna keep score and see who will be the best predictor in the end of the season. So thanks guys for joining me on the podcast. It's
yep,
been a
No
pleasure.
problem, man.
no
Been
problem.
great.
And
I like
yeah,
this.
we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
Peace.